Speedway Report is produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for Racers Reunion Radio. Well, the World Championship opened up their season down under. Winter is back, and it played with the Dirt Short Trackers and NASCAR in Martinsville. And we will have the latest from those Monday matinees earlier today. All this and more. Welcome to Speedway Report for Monday, March 26th, 2018. From the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina, I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour in racing. In spite of all the snow and the rain that peppered the country, we fought it all. We got some racing in. Latest one got checkered flag just a couple of hours ago. We'll bring you up to speed on the weekend. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Tour supposed to go green Sunday afternoon in Martinsville, Virginia. The race was snowed out along with the truck doubleheader. Earlier today, Clint Bowyer went to Victory Lane just a few hours ago, probably still in Victory Lane, hoisting a couple of cold ones for Stewart-Haas Racing as he broke his long victory drought. Took the checkered flag and the grandfather clock just a little while ago in Martinsville, Virginia. The NASCAR Truck Series was also scheduled to be in Martinsville, Virginia on Saturday. The race did go green, but not for long. Rain came. That changed to snow. That got heavier Saturday night, and that put a whitewash on the weekend. They ran their race earlier this Monday morning, and John Hunter Nemechek went to Victory Lane. He held that race, held off the front bumper of Kyle Benjamin, who gave him a little shove and turned 4 on the final lap. Nemechek holds on, takes the checkered flag. Now, Formula One opened up on an Australian Sunday afternoon, which was extremely early here on the east coast of the United States. At the end of the day, the first Grand Prix of 2018, the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel took the checkered flag. He stood high atop the podium. Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton, and your pole winner was second. Ferrari took the other spot on the podium with Kimi Räikkönen in third position. Now, our friends with the Dirt Trackers and the Lucas Oil late models, they were a victim a little bit of the weather as well. They tried to race here in the Southeast on Thursday night in Bulls Gap, Tennessee, which, if you need a little geography on the United States, is just west of where? Yeah, Martinsville, Virginia. They took the brunt of the snow and the rain on Thursday night. That race was canceled. The tour did make their way down to Ringgold, Georgia on Friday night. Earl Pearson Jr. passed the best of the best, Scott Bloomquist, on the final lap to take the win there. They raced in Phoenix City, Alabama on Saturday night, where Brandon Sheppard was the winner of the A-Main. Now, the World of Outlaw sprint cars are still out on the West Coast, and even there, all that glorious weather in California they're supposed to have, well, they fought Mother Nature as well. And a Friday night show in Watsonville, California, was rained out and canceled. However, they did race Saturday night in Bakersfield. Sheldon Haudenschild scored his third A-Main of 2018. This could be the next guy, the guy on the World of Outlaw Tour. We've had several different dominant forces over the years. This one is rising. I can think of about 5-10 years from now, Sheldon Haudenschild and David Gravel could be the next generation's Steve Kinzer and Sammy Swindell for the World of Outlaw sprint cars. Back to the pavement, the Cars Tour raced in glorious Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. They escaped all this winter nastiness. But on Saturday, they ran twin 100s. The late model stock 100 was won by Lee Pulliam, and the super late model 100 taken by Jeff Fultz down at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Good track down there. Need to get there pretty quick. I'm overdue for a visit. Let's talk about Martinsville earlier today and the NASCAR world. We ran a doubleheader, almost 750 laps, at least 720-something laps if I got to do math here. Not part of my job description tonight, so I'll pass on that. Anyway, we talked about the truck race and the cup race earlier today. And coming out of the woodwork a little bit are complaints about the dates. The Martinsville dates here, October and March. Now, the Cup races used to be run a little bit closer together on the calendar. It was very common when I was growing up for the end of April. Last weekend in April was Martinsville's traditional date. Also, the last week in September was their traditional date in the fall. Now we are pushing about a month earlier on both of them, last week in October, last week in March. And those dates people are complaining about already. Now, I understand, yeah, we got snowed out this weekend, not just rain, but snow. I've seen snow in Martinsville before. A few years ago, I drove up there from the Charlotte area on Sunday morning, and I did see snow on the way to the track. I saw snow at the track. It was the day that Kurt Busch won for Stewart-Haas, if you remember years ago, when he got into that fender scraping duel, Brad Keselowski, first on pit road and then on the racetrack. Busch won on that day, but I remember in the morning we saw some snow flying. The race got in anyway. But people are forgetting the historical fact of this. Remember the doubleheaders. Remember the dates of the doubleheaders that we used to run there. That was so popular. The Sportsmen and Modifieds ran the Twin 250s later on in years. It was the Grand National 200, Modified 200, and Late Model Stock Car 100. They became triple headers. But the dates that the Cup Tour now has at Martinsville were once the dates of those double headers, those Twin 250s that everybody loved so much. The weather was rough at times. We all remember that. Well, some of us do, us older folks, where that overhang, remember the covered grandstand section of Martinsville was pretty cold in the shade there, and people avoided that and clung to sunshine. The races, or some races there were that cold at times. And I think people are forgetting that. Yeah, the Cup dates had, the better dates. And yeah, they were traditionally warmer, and you always had the same chance of rain. But yeah, some of those bitter cold temperatures used to plague those Twin 250s. We look back on so many things in NASCAR with rose-colored glasses, and things are glorious. And we all remember those Twin 250s and how popular they were. You forget when they were on the calendar, and you can complain about this date for the Cup Tour. But, yeah, we used to run. This would have been the dates of the Twin 250s, and it would have been snowed out because they would have been running. It wouldn't have mattered. The snow would have come in, and I don't think they would have run them on a Monday. They would have postponed them to dates later on in the year. Maybe they would. Back in the day, they'd been rained out before, and they put them to an open weekend if that was a possible thing. But remember the Twin 250s. They had those weather-cringing dates that we had right now. But in Victory Lane, just a little while ago, Clint Bowyer, I know my sister-in-law is pretty happy, little Terry Ann up in Connecticut. She's a big Bowyer fan. He broke a 190-race losing streak. I don't know if we'll call winning drought. I don't know if you lose, if we'd call that on a streak, if that's the right way to say it. But it goes back to Charlotte of 2012, where that was a year that Bowyer came right down to the finale in Miami and darn near won the championship driving for Michael Waltrip Racing that year. But 190 races, never saw Victory Lane. Got so excited after he took the checkered flag, went into one, went into two, down the backstretch, made it all the way to turn 3 before he looped that car around and started doing burnouts right there. I'm glad nobody was coming, and everybody dove to pit road. It was after the pit road entrance, so I figured that Bowyer thought he was safe. He's good to go, but he lit him up right there. That's one happy guy in Victory Lane. It's been a long time, 5.5 years, since he won a Cup race in Victory Lane. Now, if you're doing the math, Stewart-Haas Racing is now 4 out of 6 this year in the Cup Series. Kevin Harvick has won 3. Bowyer has won the 4th. And remember, Eric Almirola was leading for Stewart-Haas Racing in turn 3 of the Daytona 500 before Austin Dillon got into his back bumper. So it's potentially pretty good, 4 out of 6. And we had very few caution flags today. I think we had 4, 2 for stages. 1 was a planned one for tires, as well as Jamie McMurray getting into the fence. So a very clean, smooth, fast race today in Martinsville. Want to know why? Because it was Monday. Go back to the history of the Cup Tours. You can refer to the doubleheaders I talked to before, where we rained out and we put them to another weekend. Now, on the Cup side, we used to do that on the Cup side, the old Winston Cup Grand National side. Now we're a Monday sport. When we inclement weather, it's next clear day. When we race on Monday, when the Cup Tour races on Monday, you generally see extremely clean races. Why? Because everybody wants to get the heck out of there. They're working. when you work overtime, don't you want to get her done, get her out, and go home? Bingo. That's what the drivers were doing today. Drove it clean, wanted to get the heck out of Martinsville and get out of Dodge and get back home. They're busy enough. They got an extra day of work. They sat around. Their qualifying was snowed out on Saturday. So, yeah, they wanted to get out of there. You see it all the time. I remember a race from Wilkesboro back, gosh, what do we want to call it? Back in the 80s or 90s, I can't remember what it was. They rained out, raced on Monday, 400 laps, went green to checker, caution free. Is that the one that Bodine won? Jeff Bodine won? I can't remember now, but yeah, they ran a Monday race there, went green to checker. I can't remember if he was driving for himself or maybe Bud Moore, but yeah, Monday races, always clean, because those guys want to get out of there and go home. And they had to start at 2 o'clock today because they started the truck race at 1. They had, all those laps to run before they could even get on the track. And then the truck guys had to leave their equipment there because they can't get their haulers in to load up even to go home. So, it could be, it throws a monkey wrench into so many schedules here, especially the fans, because they got to work today. And hats off to you guys that took sick days today to watch NASCAR, have a big old party on it, Fox Sports 1. I love you. I still love you. As much as I bitch and complain about NASCAR and how the sport is run nowadays, yeah, I'm still all about Monday races, sick days, and taking your kids out of school and watching racing all day. I'm all for it. I favor it. I'm good. You're cool. I love you. Now, I love that. Now I might have a smile on my face and I might feel good because I'm still laughing at ESPN's coverage of the Formula One circus on, we'll call it Saturday night here for the East Coast. ESPN's coverage, I don't know, what do you want to call it? House fire? Train wreck? I don't know. You tell me. You fill in the part here. It was a disaster. We'll call it that. It was one disaster. From ESPN, the leader in sports coverage, whatever their motto is. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. We started. Let's recap it for you because it did take place in the middle of the night and then it was replayed Sunday afternoon, but Australian time, about 1 a.m. on Sunday morning on the East Coast. The pre-race started with no audio. Then we had the crowd shots, but no commentators, no audio. So ESPN actually restarted the program several times. Then they bailed on that and went back to the previous show, which aired before the Formula One pre-race show. The previous show and programming had nothing to do with auto racing at all, more about ESPN, the magazine. And then they finally caught up to themselves a little bit, almost, a little bit left in the pre-race show. Then the race started. So, okay, they got this first time ESPN has covered a race in a long Formula One race in a long time. And then they get into the race, and the commercial breaks were placed in extremely odd spots, like right in the middle of something happening. Of all things, the two American cars, the Haas cars, were eliminated from the race, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But they went to a commercial break right in the middle of that. They went to a commercial break during a conversation with Christian Horner from Red Bull, right in the middle of a sentence. He was just cut off, and it didn't go any further. It was almost Russian roulette with the commercial breaks. And then there was post-race coverage, which we were lucky to see it all. That did run a few minutes late. So I'm glad they at least got their act together, ran that, and then, they didn't even complete the coverage of it, but you did see the post-race press conference, and then they moved on. So what the heck happened with ESPN? Remember, these guys back in the 80s and 90s, they helped build motorsports popularity in all forms in this country, and had a great deal to do with NASCAR's ballooning and explosion here in the United States. But I'm going to take a stab at this here and say ESPN has been a victim of politics. There have been so many budget cuts and layoffs at the worldwide leader in sports. I finally got their slogan right. But I think it comes from that, is that someone's got to be at the switch in Bristol, Connecticut, because that's really all you need. ESPN does not provide their own coverage for the race. All they did is take the Sky Sports feed from London. That's what they did. They got that, and they just aired that in the U.S. Now, I know the Sky Sports feed is focused on the United Kingdom and the Formula One crowd there. Right, got it. Okay, cool. Still shouldn't be an issue. You're just replaying that or airing it live, as the case may be, here in the United States. But ESPN suffers from a big lack of talent, both on air and behind the camera. There have been a lot of layoffs. A lot of good people have lost their jobs up there. A lot of bad people have lost their jobs up there. Their revenue has gone down. They've got, over the past several years, they've got too many on-air personalities who air their own political views, made the channel more unpopular. Sponsors have pulled out. Their ratings have dropped. Their advertising has dropped. Now, I'm wondering if they just had some unpaid intern following the Sky Sports feed overnight, because you're at 1 a.m. in Bristol, Connecticut in the ESPN studios, and did this kid or somebody just draw the short straw, and he has no idea about motorsports or auto racing. He has no idea what to do, or she, as the case may be. I don't know. But they're just putting commercials wherever. They didn't know how to do, bring up the audio or the video properly for the pre-race show. I mean, they didn't have to produce their own. All they had to do was plug into the Sky Sports feed. You would think ESPN, which has been on the air 30, 40 years, that this would not be that big of a deal. We have followed the Formula One coverage on NBCSN. Lee Diffie was your color guy. You had David Hobbs and Steve Matchett as your commentators, your analysts. Before that, we had the generation where Speed channel covered Formula One. Bob Varsha was your host for that. Hobbs and Matchett, that duo again, were your analysts for the race. But in this case, ESPN has not employed any of those people for that. Now, NBCSN and Speed both took the Sky Sports feed. I think it was the Sky Sports feed from Europe. But they were just that trio was just in the studio here in the United States, watching the screens, watching the feed, and can commentate on what was happening. That's how that operation did here. I wrote about this years ago. I got to sit in on the Hungarian Grand Prix back in 2010, I believe, with Bob Varsha. Great experience. I went down to the Speed studios early Sunday morning and watched them as they called the race. It's a fantastic experience. ESPN is not doing that. They're just taking the Sky Sports feed. You would think that would make a hell of a lot easier transition. Their job got that much easier. All they got to do is plug it in and let it go. Now, granted, the Sky Sports feed is this. It's not a cable channel, but is a pay-per-view channel, so there are no commercial breaks built into it. So, yeah, ESPN does have to put the commercial breaks in there when Sky Sports is still on. There's no opportune break or time to put them in, but you could do it better than what you did. When the Haas cars are eliminated, you bail, in the mid-sentence with Christian Horner. No, you just don't go to break then. And it seemed like it was a big cluster on ESPN. Let's hope they get it better. They're extremely well aware of it. The internet lit them up over coverage, but it was a mess. It's ESPN, not your first day on the job. You're the worldwide leader in sports. That's your quote, not mine. You should have been a lot better than that. It was pretty bad. You wouldn't cover the NBA like this, like you did that, or even European football and soccer. You wouldn't do it that. Bigger news, ESPN and ABC, this will be their last year with the Indianapolis 500. As we talked about networks, it moves over to NBC for 2019. It's been on ABC my entire life. So maybe we'll get Bob Brush or Lee Diffie back. That'd be cool. I would love to see that. Now, in the race itself down in Australia, it was a big strategy event. Ferrari took the lead over Mercedes because of the virtual safety car. Lewis Hamilton was leading the race. Virtual safety car came out by coincidence when the Haas cars dropped out, so they had to get them off the track. Vettel dove onto pit road, and you don't have to follow the same on-track speed limit as you do as pit road speed limit. That gave, with Hamilton on the track following the virtual safety car, he had to reduce his speed, and Vettel goes on to take the lead on pit road. And then it turns out that Mercedes might have had a miscalculation on the chips in the car to keep the car at the right speed under caution flag with the virtual safety car. What did you think of the Halo? I want to ask you guys out there, what did you think of the Halo? If you're watching us live on Facebook, throw it in the comments. I'd like to hear your comment on the Halo. And wherever you are watching us on a social media podcast, toss it into the comments. I want to hear your thoughts on the Halo. This is the first race of it. I didn't find it really offensive as far as looking at it. I know the Sky Sports guys commentated that they couldn't see the drivers' helmets too well, to call them, because in teammates' cars, it's easy for them to look at the helmets and tell the difference, say, for instance, between Raikkonen and Vettel. So that gave him a little trouble there. But it is a good safety issue. It reminds me of a cage in a sprint car. However, I don't want to get into an effect where we protect guys like Justin Wilson, but we cause an injury, or a worst-case scenario in a guy like James Hinchcliffe, in an IndyCar format. So, I mean, whatever your thoughts on the Halo, write them down below. I'll read them later. I want to see what's going on. The Haas cars, gosh, I love the American Formula One team, but they cross-threaded lug nuts on wheels on both cars, and the wheels wouldn't be tight. They were left loose, and they had to retire both cars from the race. Bummer on that. We'll follow the Kannapolis-based team the entire year. We love those guys. And Fernando Alonso, my man from last year at Indianapolis, great drive, 10th to 5th. The safety car certainly helped him out. And Sebastian Vettel, props to him. 100th time on a podium in his career. Only the fourth guy to do that. 100 podiums in your career. Awesome. Awesome run. Not a great race. Australia is a real tough place to pass with the high downforce those cars have. Was not a great show, but I found it interesting. Lots to talk about, a lot of storylines, a lot of strategy. Unfortunately, the leading one for me was ESPN dropping the ball, which should have been a slam dunk with Sky Sports coverage. About time for us to get out of here. In between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of auto racing with SpeedwayReport.com. This broadcast and all of our past shows will be uploaded on the site. We also have racing articles to read. So with all this winter weather, grab a podcast and some racing reading material and chill out. Now, I want to say this. The NASCAR Hall of Fame currently honors 54 men and 2 women. Of those men that are honored, 45 are Hall inductees, 3 are Landmark Award winners, and 6 are Squire Hall Award winners. One of the 2 women honored is Anne B. France, remembered as a Landmark winner, and Bill France Sr.'s right arm when he was building NASCAR. The other woman honored is the winner of the 2018 Squire Hall Award for Media Excellence. Go right now to SpeedwayReport.com and allow me to introduce you to Dusty Brandell. SpeedwayReport.com. Everybody, uploads of this broadcast and our past episodes are on the Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds Facebook page, the Racers Reunion Facebook page, Speedway Report on Twitter, Speedway Pat on Twitter, RacersReunion.com in the forum, and SpeedwayReport.com. Also, if you are connected to me on Google+, LinkedIn, and Facebook, we're all there. Thank you to everyone on the Facebook Live feed for joining the conversation during the show tonight. I'll be checking the messages and getting back to you guys in a little bit. I want to thank all of the military past and present for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and follow me on Twitter at SpeedwayPat. On the Drag Racing List Facebook page next is Racing and Rockin' with Draglist.com. You can join BP, JB, and BS as they cover drag racing and some great music. We will be back live next Monday, April the 2nd, with news from the Easter Bunny 150 in Hickory, North Carolina, short track racing, and a whole lot more. Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful Good Friday and Easter Sunday. I'll see you next time.